Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday night. We are going to get into spring wellness with Right Moon Healing Arts and Right Moon Healing Arts founder, proprietress, Miss Zaria Poem. She's going to be leading our last three Bronx Farm to Table sessions of the year. And we are going to be talking all about wellness, herbalism, how we use plants to support our overall well-being as we've done in the past, but this time diving into the medicinal aspects. Zaria is a teaching artist, a doula, a sister, an amazing friend, and also someone who's deeply connected with her plants as allies and as ancestors. And so we are so excited to have Zaria with us tonight to talk to us about how to use nettles. So I am going to pass it over to Miss Poem to introduce us to making nettle infusions and nettle tinctures.
Yes. Thank you so much, Saudea, for that wonderful introduction and also for having me. Thank you to our beautiful guests for joining us this evening. Again, my name is Zaria Poem. I am the founder of Ripe Moon Healing Arts. It is an umbrella venture of sorts that has a plant medicine component, also Reiki healing, doula and birthwork services, and also I do tie in my arts education into it. So, yes, we're going to get right into it. We are speaking about spring, spring wellness, right? So it may be hard to tell because we still have our puffer coats and jackets on, but spring is definitely upon us. And even when we're still cold, it's just a great time for us to be fortifying our body with a lot of our plant allies. Um, I chose nettles as a starting point because it is an herb that has seen me through and supported me along my journey of learning about herbalism, but also my spiritual and physical health. So the full name is actually stinging nettles. And just really quickly, if we can get like a show of hands, or you can drop it in the chat. Has anyone ever used nettles, or what comes to mind when you think of that word, or even the full word of it when we hear stinging nettles? So we can drop something in the chat if so, if we haven't used it, if we have never encountered it before, that is a-okay. You will today. But it sounds so delicate. Oh, I love that. Yes. Okay, so Chelsea says it sounds delicate. Um, so I want to say, which it has very nourishing properties, but we also have this stinging component to it. So it is called stinging nettles for a reason. The Latin name is Urtica dioica. So there's actually a process where even people with arthritis use it. There's a process called urtication. It actually comes from the Latin name for nettles. And for cold, frigid bones and blood flow, they actually tap it on their skin to actually bring blood to the surface. So it's a rubefacient herb, which means it helps bring blood up. So that's definitely when you have stagnant blood. And that's just a physical part of it. It actually stings. So when you are harvesting it, you definitely have to have gloves on because it's actually a defense mechanism. Um, in talking about herbs, we're always, especially myself, um, coming from the South, being a Black woman herbalist, um, having those traditions into the way that I've learned herbalism and from my elders, we're always speaking about the spiritual components of plants. So, spiritually, it's a beautiful way to, so yes, Chelsea, to be delicate with yourself, but that thinking component is actually imbuing us with creating healthy boundaries. So another plant that I like to always bring up is rose because we see it as delicate, we see it as soft and beautiful. It's a heart tonic, so it heals the heart. But rose also has thorns on it. So Rose is another one of those plants where you physically, it's like, be careful how you approach me. So even when we take these herbs internally, topically, we have those properties of the herb. And I love nettles because it's another one that allows us to create healthy boundaries, work, personal, family relationships, all around. Okay. So we're actually going to bring up a fresh nettle plant. I have some help on the other end so you all can see what this plant looked like. Maybe it's something you've seen before that you're familiar with. I would love to know. And if there's anyone who's used it or been stung by it, that would be great to know too. I want to know those stories. Okay, so this is a fresh nettle plant. So we see that it has like some serrated leaves. It's green, it's nice and beautiful. They can grow really big. And on the end of our spring, so I want to just also highlight it in our hand camera. So this is some of the dried matter that we have, some of the dried nettles that we'll be using today. So you can use fresh, you can use dried. Nettles is very high in iron, um, calcium, vitamin K, magnesium, chlorophyll. And for those who have sometimes iron medicine, or if it's in like a supplement, it can actually constipate us. So nettles is a great way of getting those sources without it affecting anything else in our systems. Okay. So one beautiful thing, like I always get the question, what is the top herb that you recommend? I more than likely am going to tell you nettles and oat straw, or even red raspberry, which I'll show briefly, and red clover, which is also a beautiful spring herb that a lot of us, if we haven't used it before, we've definitely seen it. Those little red buds that are on the ground that will be popping up. Um, so for nettles, we will start with, yes, red raspberry holds it down. It absolutely does, Chelsea. I want to show you all how we can use it as an infusion. So when we're speaking of infusion, a lot of times we're just thinking about a tea bag that we let seep for a few minutes. When you are doing anything with loose herbs, especially, we call it a nutritive infusion. So you actually want to let that, if you want to kind of drink it relatively right away, you want to let it seep at least 15 to 20 minutes. But the most potent and nutrient dense is when you do an overnight infusion. So it doesn't have to be at nighttime, but it just means that you're letting it seep for a few hours time, like at least 4 hours. That brings all of the properties out of it. Okay. So what I would like to show, and I want to, excuse me for jumping ahead. I'm so excited to show you all how to prepare it as an infusion. So nettles is definitely a diuretic. So you will be releasing, and I think it's really important. We're speaking about springtime wellness. We are in a culture of wanting to detox all of the time, and that's a natural thing. Our bodies naturally detox, right? But we can also get very, like, a little too focused on it. Like, I need to detox. I have to do this cleanse, and a lot of times it's very stripping. It's stripping our body of needed minerals and nutrients. Whereas we can look at detox as a way as replenishing and nourishing ourselves, and that's definitely what we want to do. So, and we can look at nettles as that. Nettles is a diuretic, meaning that you will urinate a lot, releasing that way, but it has so many minerals, and it's so nutrient dense that it's replenishing you of what you lose. So chlorophyll, very high vitamin C, vitamin K. It helps because it's a diuretic. It helps with arthritis internally. It helps with those um, like inflammation, but also, as we mentioned, you can use fresh nettle and put it on your skin to help in that way to bring blood up. Gout is a beautiful herb for any digestive troubles. So, and definitely anemia, right? So when we're speaking of low levels and not having enough or being deficient, in certain levels of the minerals and vitamins that we need. So just a really, really beautiful herb. It's great for your kidneys. So it's really supporting a lot of organs. And when we are speaking about that spring wellness, we're also thinking about how, we've been inside for the winter. We have more rich foods in the winter time. We're not moving as much. So it really is this herb that's like helping us prepare, for this warmer season and like get our digestive fire going, like all of our inner fires, digestive fire, our kidneys going, everything that we need to start flushing out toxins and things that have yes, break out the tincture tonight. It replenishes us in so many different ways. So I'm gonna grab our hot water. All right, so we're not using boiling. So when you're steeping your herbs, it should never be, even if you're using a pot, you all can use a pot. I love just putting water in a pot and throwing my herbs right in. Sometimes I use a cheesecloth, but I don't really do that. I want all of my nutrients. So some people look at it as an extra step and it may be a headache to then strain it, but I just like love throwing in and stirring and calling it a day of sorts. So right now, we will do a very simple infusion. So I have a teapot, all right, a little teapot that we are showing. You can do this in a cup, just simply like a mug. Um, Standard infusion is 1 to 2 teaspoons of plant matter per every 8 cups of water. I love my folk method. I eyeball everything and let the ancestors guide me. So that's a personal choice. But if I am doing like my blends that I'm selling, even then I love my folk methods. I'm just eyeballing, but I start weighing a little more and measuring a little more. But go with what is comfortable for you, and you're using your intuition. Working with plants requires that. It requires you to use your intuition, that inner voice, your spiritual guidance, your ancestral guidance, okay? Because we are connected this way. We're connected to our ancestors through the way that we use our plants, because they did the same. They had to liberate themselves, using plants as one source, and using it for physical and spiritual health. So going to our hand camera, I'm literally taking just this, I think you all can see. I would say there's a few teaspoons. I'm feeling jazzy, so to speak. So I'm adding a little more. And this is the time where you can add other allies. Like I love using peppermint for that cooling sensation. Lavender, if my nerves are a wreck, I think that's like all the time, so I should use it a little more. But nettles is actually to me, it's a very like neutral, a neutral. It isn't too strong, even though some of its constituents say that it's bitter, and it can be because it's an astringent. So if we have like a lot of mucus or water in our body, it does help to dry that up to a balance and a healthy state. So I say all that to say, I'm going to add a little bit of, see if you can see it, a little bit of our red raspberry leaf, which has a lot of the same uh, high minerals and nutrients in it. So I'm just putting it right on top. And I typically would have mixed that beforehand and then put it in, but it's okay. It's all going to marinate well together. And I am pouring our hot water. Okay, so that didn't go fully to the top, and that's okay. It is hitting it because you do see you see the color starting to change a bit. All right, and you always want to put your top, even if you're using a mug, you can put a saucer, a small plate on top of your mug. Those are the reason why is because these herbs have volatile oils, which are very medicinal, and you don't want to lose those through the steam that comes up. Okay, so you always, if it's in a pot, if you're making a big pot, you want to make sure it's covered so it can seep. If it's a small teapot, such as this one, make sure you have a cover. If you're using a mug, just put a small plate or something heat proof on top so you can keep all that goodness together. Okay. No, we don't want to lose our oils. It's okay. So now you know we want to cover at all times and let it seep. Okay. So I will actually have this tonight. I'm going to let this um, seep while we're speaking. And so this is a nutritive infusion. I will have it later, but I would typically do an overnight infusion where I'll let it seep for a few hours. And I'm also making like a big pot of it. And speaking on quantity, it's good if you want to make some to maybe drink throughout the week. You can definitely do that. Your infusions should be good for about 5 days out to a week. Okay, but if it's properly stored, so you're not going to keep it out and then you start smelling things. You don't want to use it then. But a beautiful way, if you farm or garden like our friend Sadea, and Sadea, you may be able to chime in or put something in the chat. There's actually something called nettle rot. So if it starts getting smelly or rotten smelling, that is actually a beautiful, beautiful way to fertilize your plants, to fertilize your garden, to farm with. You're actually using it as a solution and imagine, we're saying that nettles has so many nutrients, and then now that it's been sitting, and yes, minerals, so many minerals, it's been sitting and sitting, it's becoming very nutrient dense, to the point where it's smelly. We don't want to ingest it, but those plants love it. So you can definitely use nettle rot. That is the name of it, as a fertilizing solution. And so on another end, some physical ways that we can use the nettle infusion. Nettles is amazing for allergies. Okay, so I didn't bring this up when I was first introducing it, but it's a perfect time to speak about it now that we've created the infusion. You can use a clean rag or gauze if you are a person who suffers from hay fever, if you suffer from itchy, watery nose, or just a lot of mucus, like your sinuses are just like overreactive during spring or the change of the seasons. Nettles is a beautiful herb. So one, it's always great to be using it as like internally as an infusion because our bodies just need it. And sometimes it's a little more work, or we see it as, making this tea as maybe too much work. So there are things such as capsules. There are other preparations such as a tincture, which I'll also, I'll also show it in just a second. But I want to focus on the infusion. If you can imagine, like you can drink cups of this a day, like 3, 4, 5 cups a day, right? And so that's going all over your body as an infusion. Like we can literally envision it as like washing our body, and just like it coursing through and giving it all of it's giving us all of its beauty, right? And so when you have like those, the allergies are coming up, you can take your clean rag, you can dip it into the infusion and gently, put it on your eyes. You can squeeze it a little bit into your eyes. You can use a neti pot if your nose, is stuffed up, or if it's a lot of mucus, and take that infusion, put it in your neti pot, and just simply wash it through. So the neti pot is, it looks like a little teapot. I know some of you all are familiar with an elongated spout where you can do a nose wash. So these are the ways that we can do an eye wash and also a nasal wash that can help us with allergies. And just in general, like if your allergies start acting up, it's great to just have this infusion on hand, and you'll start drinking it, which you should start about now, like yesterday. All right. And I just want to visit the chat for a second. I believe we had a question. Can you do a steam with nettle? And I'm sorry if you all can't see me right now. I'm just reading the chat. Yes, yes, you can. Okay. So Chelsea asked if you can do a steam with nettle. Absolutely. So that's another way as well. And what would be beautiful for that, like how we use Vicks Vapor Rub, all those different things are some of your um, camphorous herbs. So your peppermint, camphor itself. Um, if you all don't mind, I actually have it nearby. It's nearby enough because I keep it on hand. So we have these tablets of camphor, and some of you may use them in your home. And this is pure camphor, so not just the camphor that is. Can a tonic be made from? Yes, a tonic can definitely be made from it. So as a steam, the camphor, as we know, if you know camphor, you know how invigorating it is, how it just cleanses, your nasal passage, or if you're rubbing it on, just how you feel, when you use it, that bright energy that's like awakening. So as a steam, you'll definitely do the same. You'll use a nice big bowl, put your nettles in, maybe some peppermint, some lavender if you like. That's a great time to start using your aromatics. I do just, you can see where I've been like pinching this off. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, pinching that tablet off and putting that in it. Especially in the time of COVID, I try to do those things to like, continue letting that energy and cleansing, the air throughout the body, nasal passageways, supporting our respiratory system as well. Yes, great question. And so yes, even the infusion itself is a tonic, right? So especially when you start using different herbs, and it's just a beautiful way, just herbalism itself. There's really no wrong way. Of course, you have to know your plants and know contraindications, and what plants may be poisonous, but even there's a way, especially indigenously, that even poisonous plants are used. And so they are our allies. They're here for us, okay? And we should also be here for them. And on that end, I just want to encourage everyone, if we see these in the wild and if we are foraging, it's just important for us to take just what we need. Sometimes we learn about an herb or there's one that we really love. And during this time where they're starting to sprout, we're like, oh, I need to harvest. And we over harvest. And that's why some become they're on the endangered list, or they're no longer here with us. So we have to help them help us. That's anything in life, we know, right? Yeah, so nettles, so beautiful in that manner. There are ways, that it can be prepared in a cream. All right. Yes, no worries. Looking at the need. Yes, of course. It's definitely important that we aren't over harvesting or over using. Okay. And our second preparation. So I believe Sadea mentioned that she's breaking out her tincture tonight. Tonight is what she put, right? So for those of you who aren't familiar with what a tincture is, it is simply a concentrated form of the herbal preparation. So the infusion, you'll be drinking that, or you're using it as that eye or nasal wash. A tincture is typically extracted in alcohol. I love to use brandy. So I'm just showing you what I have. Brandy, to me, it's a nice subtle flavor. A lot of people use vodka because it's strong. Hey now, yes. You'll actually see, even if you buy store-bought tincture, a lot of it is extracted in vodka. That's a little too strong for me, but there are certain roots and berries that do need a higher proof and concentration of alcohol in order to properly extract. but most leaves, you're fine with brandy. So brandy for me, it also allows the natural flavor of the plant to still shine through. Whereas your vodkas and Everclears, that's kind of like all you taste. Um, yeah, so I'm simply going to do the same. This is a 16-ounce jar that I'm showing you in the hand camera, and we want to make sure it's clean, of course. All right. I am placing the herb matter inside. Now, if this was fresh, if it were fresh herb, it will naturally take up more of the jar, because of the volume of the fresh herb. So it's kind of just like you pack it to the top, but you want to leave room for your menstruum. Your menstruum is whatever liquid material you're using. So that can be, if you do not drink alcohol or for religious or personal reasons, you can use vegetable glycerin. That's a great extract. It'll be the nutrients from it will be a little lower, but that's still a beautiful way to use the medicine if you are unable or do not want to use alcohol. Um, so that'll be something you may see it listed as a glycerite, and that's also perfect for children because vegetable glycerin is naturally sweet. So it has like this nice sweetness when you're taking the medicine. So I'm going to continue here. I'm going to fill it about a third of the way with the plant matter. I can probably put the rest of this in here. One thing to be careful about, um, especially with dried herb, nettles should be okay or will be okay, is when you use your menstruum, you want to think about how it will open up over time. So this is going to be something that will be sitting dun, 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 for 4 to 6 weeks. So herbs definitely teach us patience. Like we have to learn how to be patient working with them. And you're shaking it, you say your intentions. So you speak about how, if you're looking in the hand camera, I'm simply pouring it right up. Okay. Yes, I'm glad we're getting a head start as well. Okay. So I'm breaking one of my rules, one of my big